And what's up, YouTube? How is everyone? Oh man, it got cut off. Hey, I don't know if that made it to the whole show or not. Let me do that again. What's up, YouTube? How is everybody doing? I hope you're having a wonderful September the 29th of 2019. My goodness, aeration and seeding is put full upon us, just deep down, getting you as good in that kind of craziness as it could possibly be. I can only imagine what people are having to go through right now. I'm going to be your host tonight. I am Mr. Sunburn Through the Hat Man. I had a little day trip out on the boat today. Thank you to the Aldermans for inviting my wife and I and her friends out. We had a great time. Clearly, I'm wearing the band of approval. The band of approval. Sudi, aka our horses, watching with me tonight. That's what I'm talking about. Gene DeClos. Hey, Gene, you all right over there? All right, so for those of you that do not know, this is the weekly lawn and garden show, the #1 live stream on YouTube as it relates to lawn care. Completely made that up. I don't know if it's true or not, but I'm going to run with it. We like to cover the topics of lawn care from technical perspectives, and I typically run this show as an open format, meaning you ask questions, I provide answers. Word of warning, I make mistakes. I make all kinds of mistakes. I will tell you something wrong 10% of the time. So please be careful. Do not take everything I say to 100% to heart. Understand, I am human. I am fallible. I do make mistakes. However, outside of that, we've got a lot of positive things going on. And a lot of those positive things going on the fact that we got this show coming up right now. So I think I've done enough stalling. I don't know. Have I done enough stalling? I'm trying to make sure I got everything on my end buttoned up because, again, we're on this new YouTube format here and it gets a little squirrely. So, like I was saying, open format, you ask questions, I provide answers. I prefer to stay in the realms of lawn care and turf grass management. I will say I come from the early parts of my career were in sports turf and then quickly transitioned my way over to lawn care. As soon as I entered lawn care, I never found a reason to leave. I've got all kinds of noises that I need to turn off. Okay, I think I got that turned off. All right, now that I think I've made it through the worst of it here, let's go ahead and get started, gentlemen. We're going to move on to that time of the show that I call the roll call. And we had the first was Lushy. In fact, just got off the phone with her right before we decided to go live. But look who number 2 is. Connor freaking Ward. Connor, I don't know if you saw that YouTube story there, but I was wearing a lawn rebel hat, and my son took it off my head, and he put it on. And I said, Noah, who's the lawn rebel? And he goes, Connor freaking Ward. And I thought that was the cutest thing I'd ever seen. You're everywhere, Connor. You've infiltrated my children's heads. That's a good thing. You're a positive role model, Connor. You're a positive role model. We had Terry Finch coming in there. Of course, we said hey to Lushy. Gabriel Jordan, how's it going? Lambert, my favorite attorney, EOD 357. That's a high caliper cartridge there. Oh, who knows? We have Justin M getting in here early. Sounds like he's over in Tennessee. B-Ruck, RBL Jackson, Shane Brady, the hardest working man in lawn care. Eli's here. Oh, Toby Howard, the moderator, is here. Fantastic. Jonathan Brothers, Matt, is your pseudonym Todd Ulrich? It is not. I have no idea who that is. Maybe I do, but I probably do not. Richard Nettles is in the show. Jimmy Lewis, The Lawn Stripes, Jason Miller, Sandman's Dreamland, Kevin Shepard, DSPO, Mark Taylor from Proline, Gravy Lookout, Gibson, Chris Gibson, blah, 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 Eric Ryling, Aiden Sabo, Fabo, Matt Kosinski, I got it right that time. Dogtooth, what is going on, Dogtooth? Good to see you here. We got Cole. Hurley says it's go time. Camilo Valley, hey! I'm not amazing. I'm just another guy. Cars YouTube is here. Jake, the Lawn Kid, Ben Spurlock. Where is that hat, Ben? I was actually wearing my Absolute Kubota hat on the boat today. That's why I got this beautiful little line here. Probably a little bit on my, from the sunglasses too, but hey. What's Yardman LLC is here. What's up, dude? Chiming in from Kansas. Gary Ayler from the Borough in Tennessee. That's what I'm talking about. Steve Williams, Kevin Shepard, RVA, Long Love, Tao, Kelly. Carbonex available in Alabama anywhere? No, sir, not that I'm aware of. But if you do have a place you like to buy, I recommend you walk in there and tell them, say, hey, you ought to be carrying Carbonex because it's the buyers that dictate the product line. Just saying. Just saying. We got Ryan Noor in the house. What are you doing, Ryan? All right. I am going to go ahead and get started on the question. So if you have a question, please feel free to ask it in the chat, and I will make my way to it. If I overlook your question, I apologize. Again, I'm human. I'm fallible. I will get back to it. Do not hesitate to worry about asking it again. Lushy, where are we going with this? Lushy, you are not a beta. What is going on? No, sir. No, sir. We are not even going there. All right. Where is my first question here? Everybody line up questions in the chat, please, so I can get to it. All right. Cars YouTube says, I used Xstart on a full reno. In fall, we typically have used higher nitrogen, 8-24-12. Even if we do a second app of Xstart, how do we get more in without too much P? Also, when do we begin Carbon X apps? Okay, so this is what I would do, Cars YouTube, is after you put down and you get your grass up and you've got your second cut on it, that is when you typically have a root system that can support higher nitrogen. So after you get your second cut, go ahead, go full board. You can put down your Carbon X. You're going to be good to go. So if you put down your Xstart, you're pretty much good until you get your second cut. At that time, 4 weeks, something like that, then you can put down your Carbon X. If you are in a soil deficient situation of not having adequate P levels, then you may want to consider a second application of Xstart to work on those soil P levels. And if the grass is looking for any, it'll have plenty available. So you can run it twice, but however, until you get that second cut, nitrogen isn't going to be a driving factor. Hope that helps. All right. Oh, look at Chris Boy in here. Looking for some what? Yep, sissy grass guys here. I, for one, do not think your grass is sissy, Ryan. I don't care what they say. I want you to know that. I've seen your lawn, and I know the amount of work you put into it. There ain't nothing sissy about that. How about them apples? Matt Kaczynski says, considering Kentucky bluegrass takes a long time to grow in, should I also plant perennial ryegrass for coverage till KBG grows in? Are there any concerns with that strategy? Yes, Matt Kaczynski, there are concerns with that strategy, meaning that in the event you ever want to go monoculture Kentucky bluegrass, you won't with perennial ryegrass in it. Now, you could make experimental applications with something like metsulfuron methyl, but understand that is a mega risk, and you have to calculate your risk to reward return on investment with that type of application because the probability of you damaging your grass is there. However, you may be able to squeak by. So if it were me, I would just be patient. And if I had an opportunity to have a Kentucky bluegrass lawn, I would have a monoculture or a 3-blend Kentucky bluegrass. And I would just have Kentucky bluegrass. I would not incorporate perennial ryegrass into it. Now, there are some instances where it does pay off. Let's look at Ryan Noor. Ryan Noor's lawn is absolutely beautiful. I'm not sure which part is pure Kentucky bluegrass and which part is pure perennial ryegrass, but it is freaking stellar. So can you do it? Yeah, absolutely. You have to understand, though, that where you do introduce perennial ryegrass, it is going to take the place of your Kentucky bluegrass of being able to fill in there. So at that point, you have a hybrid lawn. You will never have a Kentucky bluegrass lawn. I hope that makes sense. Let's keep it clean, he says. What's a good height to cut turf-type tall fescue for winter? NA1DU, tall. I mean, if you normally cut it at 3-4 inches, cut it at 3-4 inches. You don't really need to do anything special with it just because it's going dormant. Turf-type tall fescue is tall, so it's used to being cut high. So you don't need to scalp it for winter. Really, the only thing you're doing there is opening up the canopy and allowing better penetration for weed seeds to have access to the things to be able to come up. Whereas if you leave it 4 inches, you're going to cast shade and hopefully drown out a lot of that from being able to come up. That is awesome, Gene DeClos. That is good. That is absolutely awesome. Look at this. Tal Kelly said, hashtag crush thy neighbor. What's up, Matt Michaels, Jesse Snow? Charlie Nantera says, what can I cut oleanders with? Hedger doesn't work. That is a great question. I honestly have no idea. If anybody in the chat has an answer, please feel free to share that, because I honestly do not know. Chances are, if it is an oleander and as woody as it is, you may just have to get in there and hack it with your loppers. Or if you have, I would much rather you do it with loppers than like a chainsaw, just because of the cleanliness of the cut. But if you're just trying to shape it back or something like that, your hedge trimmer should work. But if you're actually trying to thin it out and allow more airflow and, prune for what's to come next year, I would probably use either hand shears or loppers. I know that sounds like a lot of work, but unfortunately, that's just the nature of the plant. All right. Man, look at the questions really starting to come in now. That's what I'm talking about. Oh, let me jump up here. Okay. We got all kinds of stuff coming in. I feel like hey, from North Florida, what's going on, Terrence Mercer? Carbon X is good stuff. Thank you, Savage AF Fitness. I appreciate that. What's up, Matt from Indiana? That's what I'm talking about. Look at get some extra mats in here. Grass Thief says, Matt, Tupper sand besides crab, what other weeds does this preem work on? Okay, so Tupper sand is actually going to be another denitrile inhibitor. So it's going to have about the same level of control. So I wouldn't get super excited about everything it does. It's just another tool in the toolbox. And there's a reason why people don't use it. And it's just because it's not very effective and it doesn't really have any good long-term residual out of it either. Eric Rowling wants to know, will perennial ryegrass grow well in the transition zone? Yes, it will over winter. It does exceptionally well in the spring up until about May. And then after May 15th, you're going to see a very, very, very sharp decline in the performance of it. And if you're using it to seed into Bermuda grass, if you do not spray it out early enough, allolepathy will begin to affect the performance of your Bermuda grass. So keep that in mind. If you are seeding it into Bermuda, make sure you do spray it out. Do not try and burn it out with fertilizer. It just doesn't work like that. Oh, we got Ray in the house. What's going on, Ray? Green Doc. Hey, Matt, any experience with Pillar G as a general preventative? So Pillar G is a combination between a we got too many of these. What am I thinking here? A DMI and a strobilurin. So you could think of it in the sense as like a propiconazole and azoxystrobin. It's a combination product. The two products together will have a synergistic effect and broaden your spectrum of control. Yes, I do have experience with Pillar G, and it is a good product. Picrostrobin is the active ingredient in it. That is a strobilurin. Terrence Mercer says, if I kill all my grass and then level my yard with sand, can I seed the sand with Bermuda? Yes, you can, Terrence, but make sure you're doing it in the time of year where it's appropriate to seed Bermuda. Bermuda is going to germinate best when temperatures are higher. So you want to make sure you provide adequate water. It is a high water consumer during establishment. and also it loves heat. The hotter it is, the faster it will establish. Hell, Rhizomatous tall fescue baby grass keeps dying. Eastern Virginia, temps 85 to 92. Watering and starter fertilizer is straight. Okay, so if it's dying, then we have to look at why it's dying. If I had to guess, at temperatures 85 to 92, that is prime disease season. So what I would do is I would time a fungicide application with the emergence of the grass. And I would use something as systemic as possible, like azoxystrobin. Now, with you having temperatures as high as 92, that also could be a strong indicator for Pythium. Pythium likes those high temperatures. So you may not be able to get away with just azoxystrobin, and you may have to go with something like mefenoxam. Ray recommended something the other day that was a better alternative for Pythium. Ray, if you could comment that in the chat. I do not remember what that was. Matt Kaczynski, what's the average cost difference between spraying liquid and spreading granular? Matt, it all depends on how many pounds on the ground you want to apply. So if you want to apply 4 pounds of nitrogen through the course of a year with liquid versus applying 4 pounds of nitrogen through the course of the year with granular, you're going to spend anywhere from about half to maybe 2/3 as much spreading an equal amount of granular as you would in liquid. And the reason being is that the cost to transport active material, right? So if you take a gallon of water and you dissolve fertilizer in it, you've got liquid fertilizer. So if you take away, and in a gallon of water, you may only be able to get 2, 3, 4, 5 pounds of fertilizer in that gallon. And then also you have to deal with the specific gravity of the material that you are dissolving into the water, right? So some products aren't very soluble, or they are very soluble, but they have a very high specific gravity. So you're not getting a lot of active material out of that gallon of water. So for instance, if you took sulfate of potash and dissolved it in water, your highest analysis you can get is maybe a 002 or 003, because one, you can only get about a pound in solution, and then two, the specific gravity is so high. So if you're spraying something like potassium, it's incredibly hard to get enough on the ground in a single application. You would have to apply multiple, you would have to apply like a gallon per 1,000 square feet of concentrate. Whereas if you were doing something like nitrogen, it's a little bit easier. So you can get 3, 4, 5 pounds of nitrogen in a gallon of water, right? The issue you run into there is going to be the salt index of your nitrogen content, right? So we'll say you have a 30-0-0 that weighs 10.5 pounds. So you've got 0.3, well, no, it would be more than that. You would have 3 pounds of, roughly 3 pounds of nitrogen in that gallon of water. In that gallon of concentrate, right? And so then you would dilute it out from there. So if you wanted to apply a pound of N, you could do it as like, you'd run 1/3 of a gallon per 1,000 square feet. But if you apply a pound of N from liquid, chances are the salt index is going to burn things up. Did I freeze? No, I did not freeze. I think. Okay. What is going on here? What is this? What is all this beta going on here, Lushy? Okay, I hope I answered that question. That was a really long-winded, long, drawn-out question. Matt, will you please do a rain dance for us here in Virginia? How about this? I'll do one for you in Virginia if you do one for me in Tennessee. We have not gotten rain here in a really long time, and it's been mainly throughout the Southeast. We're all in the same boat. We have not gotten rain since mid-August. For those of you that don't remember, I think I can't remember the name of the hurricane. Was it Matthew that went up the Atlantic coast in 2016? The year that happened here in Knoxville, we did not get rain from mid-August until November the 28th. That was the year Gatlinburg burned. So I'm concerned that with Dorian moving up that way, we're in the same weather pattern that we were then. And that was not good. I mean, that was an exceptional drought. And I really hope we are not in the same weather pattern. Matt, turf type tall fescue reseeded about a month ago. Baby grass struggling to grow in, and I have nasty patch of goosegrass. Thoughts on why baby grass not taking off and what to kill off goosegrass? If you've got goosegrass and baby turf type tall fescue, I would probably apply tenacity. Tenacity would probably be your best bet there, but I would be really nervous if your turf type tall fescue is struggling. Why it's struggling? There could be a whole host of different things. Steve, have you looked at your soil tests? Is it possible that you have any kind of deficiencies taking place? Are you sure you're getting adequate water and at the times you need water? Are you overwatering? Overwatering sometimes will do it. Are you letting it stress out a little bit before you do pour more water to it? There's lots of different things that could be going on there. So it's hard to say why exactly it's not. I need more data. Cade Carter says, hey, Matt took on a seeding sod job for a neighbor, looking for some advice as far as soil prep goes. Probably something real simple is I would, one, test the soil, and then two, for establishment, something like triple 12. Not sure about what else. I don't know. Hey, Matt, I had some fungus in my Kentucky bluegrass lawn. Have treated, but have a lot of dead, melted out, mixed throughout it all. Is dethatching the best way to clear it out? Yes, maybe. But not necessarily. You can get it to grow and come up through it, especially. That's some fungus in my Kentucky bluegrass lawn. You can also just let it sit. It's not going to be a big deal, or fertilize it real good, and it should just push on through it, right? You can dethatch it, but really all you're doing is just moving, the dead material from one place to another. Recycle it back into the soil and let it be used as nutrients again. So I personally wouldn't dethatch it out. I'd just fern it heavy, get it to grow through it, let all the microbial action mineralize that organic material, and turn it back into food for the lawn. That's what I would do. Let's see here. Any tips on mushrooms in the lawn? Tried soup with little to no luck. My grass needs water. 90s here in California. Camilo, with mushrooms, I would do nothing with it. That means you have organic material in the soil. You can try dropping your water, and that would likely give you your best bet. As far as toning down the germination period on it. Germination. On the reemergence period of them. But other than that, it's a good sign. Mow over them, be done with it. Don't worry about them. Susan Webster says, I aerated and overseeded, watering with sprinklers because of the lack of rain. Now tons of mushrooms. Any suggestions? There, I just gave it to you. Don't worry about it. Just mow them. How much is too much iron for perennial ryegrass Kentucky bluegrass when moss is creeping in? That's a good question, and I don't know the exact answer to that. I probably wouldn't apply more than a pound of ferrous sulfate at a time per, maybe per acre. Let's see how much. Hang on, Lushy. Let me bust out the calculator real quick for you. So that would be 16 divided by 43.5 times 10. Okay. No, you could probably get away with let's see, if you did 10, that would be 160. Oops. About 43.5. Okay, times 0.3. You could get away with maybe 7. Hang on. You can get away with probably 14 pounds to the acre. Anything higher than that, you're going to start creating some issues. Sorry for the delay there, but I had to figure that out. I'd say 14 pounds of ferrous sulfate to the acre. What's going on? Hey, what's up from Georgia? In search of rain. I hear you, man. I hear you. What to do in the transition zone? Too much heat to seed. Okay, so Bep, this is one of those things where is it actually too hot to seed? It's only too hot to seed if it's too hot for you to be able to keep up with the watering. So just be careful and make sure you can get down as much water as needs to be down to take care of the actual grass that you seeded. So it's not necessarily too hot to seed. It's only too hot to seed if you can't keep up with the watering. John Teague says, I'm freaking out, man. I had done a slight experiment on my side yard and been mowing it with a rotary at 1 inch. Prepared that area today for overseed this week. Don't freak out. You'll be fine. Look at Ray said carbide saw blade or on a trimmer for oleander. How about that? I thought it would be cut short to prevent winter rot. Please discuss winter rot prevention. Richard Freeman, I've never heard of winter rot. If you're talking about snow mold, there's lots of resources out there for snow mold. Snow mold is not winter rot. Snow mold is an actual disease. Wanted to reel the perennial ryegrass and took the Bermuda down to 0.35. It's brown, man. Probably going to have some dead area in spring, you think? No, probably not. If you have a dead area, here to make you feel better, John, I want to show you exactly what I'm doing right now. So with the winter coming on, and I notice one of the things I get asked about more than anything else at all, it's POA. POA annua is probably the number one question I get asked. So to encourage POA this winter, we got all kinds of like crazy light shining here, and you cannot see it. Can you see that? I scalped my backyard to the dirt. I am sub half inch. There is just absolutely nothing left that you can see of it. It is just to the ground, and that's to encourage as much POA as possible so I can demonstrate the different ways to control POA. So are you going to kill your grass? No, you're not, John. You're going to be just fine. RBL Jackson says, okay, Matt, Bermuda and St. Augustine lawns, West Texas, with soil temps at 81. Calculated my spreader today at 2 gallons per 1,000. Ready to go spray yards. Good mix for both grass types. Celsius, Pre-M, Aerate sound good. It sounds good, but I probably would not include Aerate with it. Aerate is high pH and could neutralize your pre-emergent, so I would not do that. How often do you sharpen your blades on the mower? I do not do that. So I backlap on my real mower pretty often, but I have not been mowing my backyard. I'm not that guy. I'm a chemical guy. I'm a fertilizer guy. I don't mow grass. I am still confused on when to use X-Green versus Carbon X. I'm following LCN's guide. NA1DU, I do not know how it's listed in Alan's guide, but here's kind of the deal, right? So Carbon X, when you need nitrogen, if you're going to be moving into a period of stress, X-Green would be a good application. Or if you are in a period of stress and you still need a color bump, X-Green would be a good product. If you need just an all-around fertilizer, X-Green will work. If you need nitrogen, Carbon X is your answer. Carbon X is nitrogen. X-Green is a 1-to-1 nitrogen to potassium. So it is purely designed to offer color in the face of stress. What air or soil temperature does Bermuda go dormant? When it freezes. So if you get to 32, 31, something like that, it freezes. What's good SOP granular brand we can use? Also, I've noticed some out there have like 18% sulfur in there. Is there any benefit to using SOP versus SOP without? Soil tests are deficient in both. Okay, so all SOP is going to have sulfur in it, and it's all going to have like 18% sulfur in it because it is potassium sulfate. Now, when you see that sulfur on the label, understand it is in the sulfate form. The sulfate form of sulfate of potash is not an acidifying effect. It is there purely and taken up as sulfate. And as sulfate works its way into the plant, it will actually drive additional uptake of things like iron and manganese. therefore helping stimulate color without having to apply anything to stimulate color. That kind of makes sense. Like without nitrogen and iron and manganese, because basically that sulfate being applied was going to force it to come up. So sulfate is not acidifying. Elemental sulfur is acidifying. Just want to make sure that's straight. As far as a granular brand, I don't know. I've always bought it in bulk, so I'm not even familiar with a name brand of SOP. EOD says, do you have any plans for planting dwarf Weigelias? Wow. I planted some and it seems like it's struggling, and I may have overwhelmed or damaged roots too much when planting. Hell, so drainage is going to be your big thing for Weigelias, right? They're pretty easy to grow, so even though they may be struggling now and stunted, I would just pull the water off of them altogether and let them go a little bit. Make sure they've been fertilized real well, and make sure they're in an area where it does drain well. So, for instance, if your driveway slopes down, don't plant your Weigelias right here. And if you do, make sure it's in a raised bed. You don't want that being continuously bombarded with lots of water. So be easy on them. After overseed grass grew in, but seems to be folding over, matted, anything that I can do besides lightly rake blow, lacking nutrients that cause blades to stand up straight, cut short, cool season. Yeah, could be, Dexter. So if it's not standing up straight, it could be deficient in potassium. That's the first thing that kind of comes to my mind. To kind of encourage it to stand up, you can try to ramp things up with potassium silicate as a potassium source. You could also use, anecdotally, maybe calcium. Maybe, I don't know if you get it out of calcium or not, but that would be a good start. So potassium, if that's not enough, then maybe go with like a potassium silicate. And if that's not enough, throw some calcium in there too. And after that, it should be standing up and so rigid that it ruins your mower. Where can I buy this in Georgia? I do not know what you're talking about, Selleck Anderson. What can I use to kill off nimblewill and bentgrass in a cool season mix? So if you're looking to kill off nimblewill and bentgrass in a cool season mix, I'll give you two options. Number one, my favorite, would be Pilex. Number two would be Tenacity. Both of those, same mode of action, both effective on both of those weeds. What's the word on the no nitrogen all humate 12 all year on Bermuda lawns? Next year, give us a hint. I would never recommend that ever at all under any circumstance. Basically, that goes against everything that a Bermuda plant is genetically designed to do. So really, it goes against all agronomy. So we'll look at it from this perspective, right? That there are three things we call macronutrients, and we call them macronutrients because of not necessarily just the volume, but the amount of them that get used by the plant in a given growing season, especially if you're going for fine turf. A no nitrogen all humate plan would ultimately just be a disaster because you're not doing anything to provide nutrition to the plant. So you can have the tilthiest, most perfect, beautiful black dirt that you've ever had, but if you do not have NP and K, it's always going to be deficient, assuming you continue to try and run a humate program all year. Nitrogen drives the uptake of other materials. So if you're depleting it of nitrogen, you're also depleting it of the ability to take up the P and K that are also necessary for growth. Also, the micronutrients that would be necessary for growth. So that is not a good plan. Let's see here. How about them bots? I saw we almost won. We almost won this weekend, but I'm hoping next weekend will be the weekend when we play the Dogs. Oh, wait, we had a bye week. We're all right. Mark Taylor, what is your take on natural adjuvant? Mark, I have no idea what a natural adjuvant is. If you're talking about a natural adjuvant, the only one I can think of off the top of my head would be like yucca. And yucca is a fine surfactant. There's lots of yucca products out there. There's a million and one of them out there right now. Are they the end all be all of turf? No, Absolutely not. It's just another surfactant. So that's the only one I can think of. If you've got, I don't know what you mean by natural adjuvant. Jacob Morissette says, I'm in Maine. You discussed snow mold and high K applications in the fall. What is considered high? I'm about 4 pounds per thousand deficient. Oh boy, and have applied about 1 pound per thousand of K this fall. Okay, Jacob, if you're that deficient, okay, you made a pound per K this fall. That's good. You should be fine there. You're in Maine. You're not going to have a whole lot of growing season left. You got a pound down. We'll call it good. 4 pounds deficient though. That is brutal. So that tells me you're like less than, I'm going to say like 30 parts per million in K. That's low, dude. That's low. So in the spring, if you ever renovate your lawn, that would be a good time to go ahead and get all of that done at one time. Since you are that deficient, and chances are you're probably not going to be renovating, you can spread that out across the spring, right? So your first application, as it comes out of dormancy, you can get down another pound of K. As you start to move into peak growth, you could put down another pound of K. And that's going to begin to build your soil levels, right? So, and then once you get that normalized, then you can be a little more flexible with your applications and not have to pound K so much to understand that to kind of predict how the plant is going to respond, right? So again, we have to think about it this way, though. Remember, nitrogen drives K uptake. So now that you are so deficient, every time you go with an aggressive rate of fertilizer, we'll say like you put out a pound of actual N, then chances are you're going to be pulling a half pound of K out of that soil. So with every time you applying nitrogen, you need to be applying K along with it to make sure you're not putting the plant into a deficient situation. What precautions should I take when spraying MSM around trees and flower beds? Should I leave a buffer around those areas? Yes, 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 yes. Is it too late to go after grubs and ants preventatively with soil temperatures at 81 degrees on the decline? Nah, it's debatable. You could probably go with a high enough rate of imidacloprid right now that it wouldn't be an issue. You could do the same thing. You could do the same thing with what is it, acelepryn too. I don't know what those rates are off the top of my head, but both of them have, quote unquote, post emergent activity. You just have to use the right rate, and I don't know what that is. Garrett Scott says, "Let me hear. I use sick tree rate of a tree and shrub package on a mature water oak this spring. The mistletoe in the tree now seems to be dying. Coincidence? I don't know what a sick tree rate is, and I don't know what a tree and shrub package is. I do know what a mature water oak is. The mistletoe in the tree, I've never heard of it referred to as a mistletoe in the tree. Oh, look at this. Okay. Where are you that you are having to deal with this? I've never seen mistletoe in an oak tree. It tells you where I am. It seems to be dying when you applied it at the sick tree rate. Coincidence? I don't know because I have no idea what's in the products you applied. So unfortunately, I'm stumped on that too. I have no idea what you applied. Damon Williams says, also, will the preventative rate of mesotrione kill also established weeds? Yes, it will, but consult the label to make sure it actually will kill. Aliette, Forpithium, and Phytophthora. Placetal, oh, yeah. Okay. Good call. After overseed grass grew in, but seems to be falling. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, we talked about this. Oh my goodness. We jumped to the bottom. Now let's move back up. Okay. Here we go. New lawn seeded 3 weeks ago. Has stopped growing. I have irrigation. Use 18-24-12. Starter. Turf type tall fescue. Not tall enough to even mow yet. Soil pH 7.3. Northern Indiana. Thoughts? That sounds perfectly normal. Sometimes that is really, really normal. So, Kentucky bluegrass has the reputation of the sprout and pout, but that doesn't mean like all grasses don't go through that. So you have to remember there's a lot of energy that has to be converted from photosynthesis into carbohydrates for the root system to establish to be able to support more top growth. So you're going through that phase there where the top growth and root system has to catch up with one another, and that may seemingly suspend a little bit of your top growth. In fact, I did a video about it where I was talking about one of the Rhizomus tall fescues I was working with, that it was acting very much like a sprout and pout because it just stopped growing and I could not get it to move. And it didn't matter what we did with the irrigation. It didn't matter what we did with the fertility. It didn't just move until it decided it wanted to move. And that's it. Hey, Matt, can I mix dethatch, aerate, RGS, and Humic 12 all in one tank spraying? Frank, I have no idea. I would reach out to the guys at Greene County. I have no idea. I get sun all day and it dries quickly. Was watering enough to try and keep new seed damp enough to germinate. Going to be mid-80s again next few days. Way above normal temperatures the last few weeks. Yeah, it is. As you're moving into the mid-80s the next few days, you have to understand that's probably a cooling trend. And then also pay attention to your nighttime temperatures. So what you may want to do is transition over to just watering during the actual daylight, right? So, like normally I say it's, 7 a.m., 11 a.m., 3 p.m., 7 p.m. You may want to switch that over to something like 8 a.m., noon, and then 5 p.m. and go for a little bit longer period of time to try and help with that. Maybe asking the same question in a different way, but after being hit with rhizoctonia, should I remove the dead grass or just let it sit? My thought was getting extra air to the soil might help clear things up. It might, Terry Finch, but you're going to be losing soil organic carbon by opening up to the atmosphere. I would not do it. I would let it sit. When will X-Start be available in California? Chris, I do not have the question, my friend. How late in the season can I put down dithiopyr? Soil temps currently 61 in northern Illinois. Air temps highs of 60, lows of 45 consistently. Really, you're kind of at the threshold there. Get it? Yeah. If you're concerned about, the broadleaves and stuff that may come up, but you can run it. You can run that down till you get to soil temperatures of probably like 50, something like that, 48. Really, I'd say as long as you're above freezing, you're okay to put it down. I mean, that's the reality. I'm trying to think, as far as like getting the most out of your dollar that you spend. I'm going to say like 50. Yeah, probably somewhere around 50. But technically, you can run that all the way down until it's not quite frozen. Should I use perennial or hybrid annual newsprint for Bermuda overseeding? Always use perennial, always spray it out. I'm not sure what a hybrid annual is, if that's like a transitional ryegrass that I've seen. Typically, those just don't have good genetic color. Perennial does have great genetic color, and annual ryegrass has higher allolepathy than perennial does, at least in my experience. I don't know if that's factually true, but anecdotally, in my experience, I feel that way. My original plan was to cut my turf type tall fescue at 3.5. Had decent stand of existing turf, but recently read I should cut my first cut at 2 inches. Any thought on how to cut? I don't, because I don't really think it's going to make that much of a difference. If you want to put in the work and cut it at 2 inches, fine, great. Is that going to make any difference between your overseed at 3.5? No, it's not. Damon says soil test came back P and K low, average P 45, average K 37, range is 57 parts per million. I just dropped X-Start at 3 per 1,000. How much more should I drop to get in range? With your P at 45, that does not concern me at all. I think you're fine there. K, I would definitely get down more K. So I would put down something like X green. X green is going to be a 1-to-1 in the K. And to be able to move it up to 50 to 70 parts per million, I don't know what that exact rate is off the top of my head. I'm not going to be able to do the math right here during the live show, but you can safely apply that at 9 pounds per thousand, and that would give you 3/4 of a pound of K in a single application. Is there a reason why all these seed bags have mix of different varieties of turf-type tall fescue? Why not just have one variety that is top in the NTEP trial? What are cons, pros of getting a variety versus a single turf-type tall fescue? So you want a variety because you are going to get different outputs out of different out of different cultivars. So, for instance, even though they may all be high on the NTEP trial, one cultivar may be exceptionally susceptible to Pythium, while the second one in the NTEP trial, also very high, maybe number 2, it may be extremely resistant to Pythium, but very susceptible to gray leaf spot. And then number 3 may be exceptionally resistant to Pythium and gray leaf spot, but extremely susceptible to brown patch. So by mixing the 3 together, you mitigate the amount of damage that can be done to your lawn at one time. Because if you did choose one and you only treated it for that one particular weakness it has, the potential for you to develop resistance to that cultivar and ruin that cultivar's natural ability to be able to resist things, you ruin it. So that's why. Thoughts on Zeo fungicide? Johnny Fescue, I have not used it, but I know a lot about it. So this is what's interesting. So it is a genetically modified bacteria that was developed out of the research triangle by a company called Ag Biome out of North Carolina, the research triangle in North Carolina. They're funded by Bill Gates, and they've done multiple seed rounds. And on paper, what Zeo is claimed to accomplish is groundbreaking, earth-shattering. So being a genetically modified bacteria applied to the soil, it will target Rhizoctonia species exceptionally well, and due to its genetic modification, it is tolerant of azoxystrobin. So you can tank mix it with azoxystrobin to extend your duration of control of those particular diseases, even in a preventative route. So it is exceptional as far as what it does. Now, what I don't know and what I can't be able to answer because I don't have the research and I don't know if anybody does, is what happens over time with that bacteria or whatever it is being genetically modified. What causes it to die? What causes it to flourish? What causes it to reproduce? Because what we don't want is a whole bunch of zombie bacteria roaming around in our soils. Even though it may be good that it is, taking out something like Rhizoctonia, in some instances that may be a bad thing. It may be opening it up to something else. We don't know. But I don't know enough specifically to speak on that with authority. I'm just saying as a hypothetical. But what I can say is that the research that has gone in the development of a product like Zeo and making it to the market and making it through all the EPA regulations and testing is truly groundbreaking. And I think Ag Biome is going to be an extreme front runner for the green industry coming up over the next 10 years. Right now, the product is still cost prohibitive. It's something like $10 a thousand. And you're having to buy multiple acres at a time. So thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars is the barrier to entry, is the pay to play level right now. Guy at work was asking, how many times can a grass seed dry out and get moist before it will die, not germinate? Jacob, I do not know the exact answer to that. But I would say it would be fine multiple times until it actually pushes out. As soon as it makes its way out of the seed case, and then it dies, you're pretty much toast. Hungry Southerner, I don't think so. Lushy didn't make you do a damn thing. Yawning. Steve Williams, do you use MSO with tenacity? Yeah. Oh, look right here. No more than a ½ ounce per gallon of spray. I don't know, Camilla. I don't talk about that. Let's see. What is the upside downside to seeding turf type tall fescue, Kentucky bluegrass, perennial rye blend mix? Okay. Right plant, right place is the fundamental part of establishing any plant. Clearly, Kentucky bluegrass and perennial ryegrass is the wrong plant in the wrong place. End of story. In fact, I would even argue that tall fescue is the wrong plant for Middle Tennessee and even Knoxville. Go drive around and look at your fescue lawns right now. When will X Green meat be made available in California? I do not know. Look at that. And you're welcome, Savage Fitness. You're welcome. Matt, in your backyard, can you test sections of prodiamine and dazaflam, oxidizon, and a control for POA prevention? Probably not, because I'm not going to spend the money on spectacle. But I do have prodiamine and I do have oxidizon. And I will go ahead and say that neither of those will compare to indaziflam. Oxidizon might, but indaziflam is just the bee's knees. If you haven't seen the test plots of indaziflam, do some Googling. It just works. Everybody knows it works. I'm more concerned about, from a post-emergent perspective, what gets accomplished. POA Day at the University of Tennessee does all kinds of trials, and I think there's actually a copy of the live stream of it somewhere floating around on Twitter that you can watch from Dr. Brosnan talking about it. And prodiamine just doesn't work well. Indaziflam works almost flawlessly, and oxidizon does a pretty damn good job. What my bigger concern would be post-emergent controls, and what do post-emergent controls of POA look like? And let's even use some of the products that are labeled for cool season grass and see how it works there. Is there a difference between soybean oil and methylated seed oil? Yes, there is. Look at this. Soybean oil is not a good solvent and penetrating agent versus MSO. MSO is a vegetable oil trans-esterified that makes it much better penetrant than solvent. There we go. What is fast release nitrogen versus slow release nitrogen? What element should I look for to tell the two apart? So typically you will see something. How can I help this forehead from sunburn? Someone mod my wife. I'm adding her as a moderator. That is funny. Chris Broussard, I did a video that is all about nitrogen, and I go into the depths of everything you could possibly want to know about nitrogen. Somewhere. It's somewhere on YouTube. I will find it. Oh, here we go.
What's up, everyone?
Hey, what's up, everyone? I hate watching my own videos. So, okay, at Chris Broussard. There we go. It's in the chat. Check it out. Look, giggity. Thanks for explanation on SOP and the sulfate. How do we raise the levels of sulfur on a soil test, or is it not something to be concerned with? Looks like sulfur is in XDart. Maybe that helps. Yes, in XDart it comes from sulfate. Same with sulfate of potash. It has sulfate. All of those will raise the sulfur levels of the soil. The soil will be tested and it will show as sulfur. But again, you're still confusing elemental sulfur, which will convert into hydrogen in the soil. It doesn't convert to sulfur in the soil. It converts to hydrogen, which will raise your soil pH. Sulfate is taken up into the plant as sulfate, and it exists in your soil and registers on a soil test as sulfur. I hope that helps. I have some compacted areas. Look at RVL on Love. Getting all serious. Asami, he needs lotion. I have some compacted areas in my Kentucky bluegrass lawn for construction. I've been applying next products, aerate, etc. Lawn still struggling. Should I stick with it or break up the ground and replant? sandy soil. If you're still running into issues, you probably need to do something different. That's kind of my take on it. I'm only going to put up with enough issues for so long before I begin to freak out. What is going on with the beta line? I don't know what the whole beta thing is. I was tagged in a statement from Lushy on the Discord, which, by the way, I have not plugged that in a minute. Let's head down this road. Hey, we got Stonehenge in the background. Man, I go like once every other week or so I had to throw it back there. For those of you that are wondering how to get a hold of me, let me tell you a little bit about how to get a hold of me. You can find me on the Discord at thelawndiscord.com. I can't see around my mic stand, so I'm having to duck and jive over here. You can email me at thegrassfactor@gmail.com. Good luck to being able to get me to respond. I'm telling you, I don't know what changed this year, but I get so many emails in a day, it would take me probably 6 months to sit down and answer all of them. So chances are you can send me an email at gmail.com. I will do my best to answer, but chances are a lot of those just get swept through because so many of them come in. You can also find me on Instagram at The Grass Factor. You can also find me on the Lawn Forum at The Grass Factor. I do not typically participate a whole lot on the Lawn Forum because the people there typically know way more than I do about turfgrass, so there's no real reason for me to get involved in any conversations unless it's something usually about my product or something about my product that's being stated incorrectly. So I try not to get involved there. And the new one is you can find me on Twitter. For those of you that are on Twitter, you can find me on Twitter at The Grass Factor. Why Twitter? I don't know. I'm excited to be there, though. And if you find me on Twitter, also, you can find Carbon Earth is on Twitter now. Carbon Earth doesn't really know what it's doing on Twitter, but it is there. So, yeah. Those are the places to get a hold of me, and I will throw a link to the Twitter on the chat. There we go. Look at all these serious questions. Asami, aloe plus lotion. For those of you that are wondering, I'm pretty sure my wife was just making fun of the fact that I have this band on my head right here. She has not let it go all day since we got off the boat. And she's a woman. She certainly knows how to take care of a sunburn. Whoa, the white screen here. I don't know about all that. Let's do this. Okay. How long should I wait to apply a second round of tenacity on newly germinated turf type tulle fescue? Copper World, I would apply it when your label tells you to. So, for instance, I believe it says after emergence of seed, do not apply tenacity for 2 weeks or 4 weeks. 4 weeks. I can't remember specifically. I'm going off memory, and I could be wrong. Double, triple, quadruple check that, but it says after seed emerges, do not apply tenacity for X number of days or weeks or months or whatever the case may be. So that's how long you should wait before you make your next application of tenacity. What would you recommend to kill Kalinga near a low-lying drainage ditch? I would recommend Solero Imazosulfuron. 2 mows or 30 days, whichever is longer. There we go. Stephen Ludke says, any new updates on them peptides? Yes, I've got lots of updates on the peptides. I've been scripting out the videos. They're going to be pretty in-depth. I'm trying to get some interviews lined up with some experts in the industry. I have reached out to a couple of PhDs to talk specifically about the product. I have found one in the United States that is available, but it's only available to the golf industry, not outside of the golf industry. So I could go get it with my license, but nobody else would be able to. And it would also limit what I could do with it as well. So anyway, hoping to get some PhDs on a live show or at least on a video, and we talk about things like peptides that are coming up. What is going on, the lawn straps? I don't need a lotion. We do not need to save my forehead. Let's tackle the cough first. The cough is still lingering. Although I've not coughed this whole show. That is funny. All right, all right, all right. How can I get a thick canopy of chest? That is funny. See, the turf type tall fescue recently had decent results, but some thin spots. When would it be too late in the season to reseed? If you're dipping down near freezing at night, it's too late really to reseed, in my opinion. If you've got some thin spots, okay, let me go ahead and get this out of the way right now. 90% of the issues I see with people in their seed jobs that are either developing disease or are concerned that it's too thin is people applying too much seed. When you have seed growing down, if you look down at the ground and you cannot see ample dirt, you put down entirely too much seed. If you look across and 3-4 weeks after seeding, it is thick, it is lush, and you can't see the ground when you stand on top of it, or even if you're standing at your driveway looking at your yard and you cannot see the dirt throughout the entirety of it, you put down entirely too much seed. And what happens is that you create all kinds of cross competition, and also it's never able to dry out because you're keeping it moist to establish and grow in. And then on top of that, there's so much seed, the canopy is so dense, the plants never have an opportunity to dry out, and so disease proliferates. So I'm just going to say this right now. If you think it's too thin and you put your fingers down, you hold 3 fingers like this, and we'll say these 3 fingers come in at just under, we'll say that's pretty close to 3 inches right there. If there's not 3 inches between grass blade to grass blade, then wait. If it's 3 inches from grass blade to grass blade, that's good. If it's less than that, you're treading on ice. Just understand. Density during seeding is not important. You build your density after your seed establishes. I hope that makes sense. Matt, scalped dead areas and slit seeded turf type tall fescue. Thicker areas have very. Oh, okay, that's the one I just did. Okay. I would just be more patient for the time being. After aeration, seeding, and seeing germination of seed, can I apply Milorganite at a high rate, or should I apply a winterizer, Scotch brand, with a high nitrogen and potassium for winter? Ken, I would pull a soil sample and see what you're working with. You can do either or, and is either or going to work fine? Sure, by all means, you're good to go. But if you're in a position where you're off the charts high on phosphorus, you probably shouldn't be applying more Milorganite on top of it. If you've got Kentucky bluegrass and you're heading into winter, you can apply a high nitrogen, but make sure, one, it's ammoniacal or at least quick release, because you want it to be able to use as much as you can quickly and then store the rest with the cold weather, right? Make sure it's not like methylene urea that has to be broken down through microbial mineralization in order to be available. Because if you apply that as a winterizer, something that contains methylene urea, which I often see in the Scotch products, that's not going to release until the next spring when you start getting warmer temperatures. Ideally, what you would rather have happen is that you have 1 or 2 day temperature spikes. You have something like ammonium sulfate in the ground. You get those 1-2 temperature spikes. Your grass just explodes out of the ground, and you're greener before way everybody else is. And I built a whole career out of doing it, and I tried it with just about every nitrogen source I possibly could find, except potassium nitrate. And I always had the best results out of ammonium sulfate. So there we go. Let's see here. Is alprazolam a good fungicide? That's funny. That is funny. Do herbicides have a shelf life? Yes, they do. And it's all going to vary based on the formulation, right? So the formulation is going to act as preservative in some of it. How do I dispose of it? This is a great question. And the problem is that there's not really a good answer. Do not call like Chemtrek or something like that. Typically, you would go to your fire department and find out when they have herbicide disposal days. And on those days, they will take in all those products and be able to do it. But chances are they're only going to do it something like once a year. It's lawn and popping with Cinemac. When should I put down pre-emergent? Greenville, South Carolina. Asking for a friend. Now. Dadding all day. Can you explain why turf-type tall fescue isn't a good plant for Knox, East Tennessee? Yeah, we have just gotten too hot. There's just no other way around it. You know, when you are starting to string together, 30, 45 days of no rain and 30 to 45 to 60 days, we'll say 60 days above 90 degrees, turf type tall fescue after 85 degrees is trying to shut down. Shut down. If 85 was our summertime high, by all means, turf type tall fescue would be fine, but it's not. It's 92, it's 94, it's 95. Its heat index is a 101, 102, 103. It's 80% humidity with a 96 degree high temperature. That's not turf type tall fescue weather. That's Bermuda grass weather. If you look at some of the athletic fields you see around here, they're all Bermuda grass, not Kentucky bluegrass. And the reason why is that, again, it comes down to right plant, right place. It just performs well here. Now, here's the kind of caveat to that. I said there's a caveat earlier. This is kind of the caveat. It still gets cold here. Winter kill is still a real thing that has to be contended with. So keep that in mind. In my opinion, I think Bermuda's better because it can recover. I think turf type tall fescue is fun, at least in the fall and in the spring, and then it makes you miserable and wonder your life decisions during the months of July and August, and this year, really the month of September too. And if we run into one of those scenarios where we get 4, 5, 6 inches of rain in the month of January and a high temperature of 32 degrees, for 3 weeks of running, then chances are, we're going to run into winter kill too, and Bermuda grass may not be very fun in that instance either. So the crazy thing is that where we are in the transition zone, there's nothing really that just stands out as highly performing. Nothing. They all have their advantages and disadvantages. And so at that point, it just becomes, what kind of maintenance interval do you want? Are you okay with the lawn dying every July and August and then reseeding in September? Or are you okay with the lawn being dormant from Thanksgiving through mid-April or even Memorial Day, as late as Memorial Day? It all comes down to what your goals are. Looks like your first freeze a couple weeks. Oh, wait, that's not to me. Matt, hey, thank you, Ryan Nort. I appreciate it, sir. Thank you. Elemental sulfur converts to hydrogen, which raises pH. Did I hear that right? I said it wrong. It converts to hydrogen, which lowers pH. I said it wrong. Konnichiwa. What's going on, JTLK? Tess Hunt, Silverback. Let's see here. It lowers pH. Yeah, that was what I meant to say. Whoa, man, we got more stuff coming in here at the bottom. Okay, is there anything wrong with using weed and feed plus crabgrass preventer all the time on my lawn outside of seeding time? Yes, absolutely. Oh, dadding all day, man, you did not need to do that. You did not need to do that. Thank you, sir. Thank you. So weed and feed plus crabgrass preventer is not the way to go about doing it. So one, when it says weed and feed, and I'm assuming it has a post-emergent in it, and that post-emergent is probably 2,4-D. 2,4-D has an annual limit of how much you can apply through the course of the year before it can become phytotoxic to your grass, meaning it can damage your grass. Same thing with things like the crabgrass preventer. Crabgrass preventer over a certain point will become phytotoxic because of the amount of damage it will do to your root system. The damage that occurs to a root system, cars, YouTube, you don't need to do that, sir. Thank you. TLF cool season, yes, you're right. 5 to 6 pounds per acre would be much safer. He was asking for an absolute max rate for moss, not to be safe on cool season grass. So we're not going for a green up. We're going to try to kill moss. So I'm going pretty extreme there. So weed and feed contains, okay, and then so the idea of putting behind a pre-emergent is a measurable amount of risk, right? Because you're ultimately putting pressure on the root system of even your desirable turf grass to an extent, right? And so by continuing to apply that, even though it's outside of the time of seeding, there will be potentially a cumulative effect among all those applications, which over time could put you into a situation where you're actually causing more harm than good. Same thing with continual applications of 2,4-D in that same instance. So no, it doesn't work. That's not a good idea. Matt, sprayed yard with Bifin IT due to crazy armyworm breakout. Should that be the last time I have to worry about them this year? Texas. I don't know. I don't know what your temperatures are. It's really hard to say. My face is fine. What's wrong with my face, Damon Williams? It ain't even burned, man. I just got a line right there. It doesn't hurt. I think it's a similar plan with the K. I'm at 29 with a similar issue, P22. I have put down 1/1000th of that as well, and we'll pick back up with both in the spring. There you go. The joys being in the transition zone. That is right. Matt Kaczynski says, when do you spray out perennial ryegrass before Bermuda grow-in? Which herbicide do you use? So I either use Revolver, Forum Sulfuron, I either use Katana, Flazosulfuron, or I use Monument, which is trifloxysulfuron. I prefer Monument because I can wait later on the spray out. So say I wait till May 15th or May 1st, and I do an application of Monument. Chances are I can catch any of the early emerged nut sedge at that time, and with that trifloxy portion of it, with that additional fluoride ring, I feel like I get a better residual out of my herbicide with Monument. Where, and again, this is anecdotal, this is just my experience on sand-based fields, is one application of Monument on May the 1st, I did not have to spray herbicide aside from my fall pre-emergent the rest of the year if I applied a fall pre-emergent. So keep that in mind. I could do one application in late spring, early summer, and I was good for the entire year. So when do I spray that out? May 1st, May 15th, something like that. April 15th. It all depends on where you are and what your goal is. Is winter kill a thing with cool season turf? If so, how? I don't know. I'm not... His potential really with any turf type, yes, but it would just be through sheer destruction of the root system because of sheeting of ice. So here, particularly in the South, how we get it is it's not like the ground freezes. We will get just sheets of ice that form on the surface. And it's where these sheets of ice form, typically we have the most damage on warm season turf. It's not, again, the ground isn't freezing all that much. It's the sheet of ice on the surface. Internet Drought, also deficient in K, recommended 3 pounds per 1,000. Should we apply some now and then more in the spring? Yes. So Cars YouTube, if you're applying nitrogen now to try and drive top growth, then I would go ahead and be applying K with it. Let's see. Bermuda handles dogs well. Tolerance a wide range of pH, given the lime and humic, time to work. Okay. Whose side are you on with the sissy grass, Kentucky bluegrass? Oh man, I can't pick a side. I mean, I love Connor and Ryan both so much that I'm on both their sides, and I hope they come to an agreement between the two of them and they find common ground and they shake hands and hug at the end of the day. I don't know, man. I don't know. I have no experience with look at this, for concealer makeup for the forehead line. Asami, no damn makeup on my head. I'm telling you right now. Will 0050 help lower soil pH? No, it will not. Not directly. I'm preparing my head for a Carbon X tattoo. No, absolutely not. I have no tattoos, nor will I have any. I got lots of friends that are covered in tattoos, just not me. Matt, if you could only have one of each, herbicide, pre or post, fungicide, and insecticide, what would each be? Curious. Thanks. Okay, so what would the grass type be? If it's for Bermuda grass, my herbicide would be Monument. My fungicide would be Daconil. My insecticide would be Acelyprin. Daconil or Mancozeb. What are the disadvantages of keeping cool season grass short? Kentucky bluegrass fescue around 1 inch in New York. Nothing, as long as you can keep up with the frequency of cut and you can adjust your fescue to be able to tolerate that height of cut. There's no real disadvantages. It's just you have to keep up with the mowing. Fescue is awesome in Nebraska. Sure. Yep. Any idea why every worm in the neighborhood wants to hang in my soil? The more humic and RGS I put down, the worm seems to double. It's out of control. I started this year with Milo. Can I reverse this? Dan, it's possible, but honestly, I'm not gonna say how to do it. Hey Matt, I am 12 days post-emergent and I am facing rare low temps in Oregon. Looks like 2 to 3 days with a low of 34 degrees. Is my overseed about to be for nothing? Turf type tall fescue, growth at about 2 inches. Thank you. No, it'll be fine. Turf type tall fescue is going to do just fine. At if it's already at 2 inches, you're good. You're in the clear, man. You're fine. It's done. Don't worry about it. Let's see. Says your soil is the best. Earthworm density is awesome. They poop plant food. That's true. That is true. Should I scout my Bermuda and apply a heavy rated perennial growth regulator for rye overseed? So if you want to put down a PGR for your rye overseed, you need to spray it first and then scalp it. Because if you scalp it and then apply like Trinaxapac, it's not going to be able to be taken up by the plant because it's taken in through the leaves. Ronnie Bermuda Grass says, thanks for everything, Matt. Bought X-Rain for my last dose. I'm in Bermuda. If it ever rains again, it's going 6 weeks now in North Florida. Awesome. I think that's actually a great application to put it down with. Where am I? What tips do you have? No, sir, Daniel. What tips do you have for building organic material in sandy soil? I'm using RGS and humic every week. Well, RGS and humic aren't designed to directly build organic material. RGS more so than just humic 12. Humic 12 would be more of a chelator and also because of its high cation exchange capacity, help be able to hold nutrients longer in the soil. Nothing really to do with organic material. So if you're looking for organic material to say like slow infiltration, then I would probably apply something like organic material, like an organic fertilizer, like biosolids or poultry manure or something like that. Matt, if you can only have one of each, herbicide, fungicide, and insecticide, what would each be for turf type tall fescue? This is harder for me. I would probably say Tenacity, Daconil, and Acelyprin. I like Ray's answer there. Monument, Mancozeb, and Diazonaut. There we go. Appreciate it. Hey, thank you, Rob Wright. Hey, man, any recommendations for those in the Northwest with a crazy blizzard they just received and overseeded this year? No, it'll warm up and you'll get your grass in and you'll be fine. In my front renovation, I have thousands of earthworms casting piles. They're getting in the way of mowing Kentucky bluegrass at 1 inch. Suggestions. Water them and knock them down, roll them out. There's some different things we did in golf. Again, Zach Williams, I apologize. I'm just not going to talk about him because I have to be careful with what I say and recommend in situations like that. And I hope you understand why. Let's see. When using mesotrione during overseed, does it matter what you drop first, meso or seed? No. All right, everybody. How to prevent dandelions and ryegrass when it's cold, super, super cold. There's an herbicide called Defender. Defender works exceptionally well at keeping your dandelions at bay. All right, everybody, it is 10:10. I have run the distance. I have made it all the way to the end. I've made it to the goal. I appreciate everybody tuning in. I'm going to have to call it. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I really, really enjoyed it tonight. Thank you to Ray in the chat. Thank you to Toby H in the chat. Thank you for my wife for making fun of my headband that's just hanging out up there. You know what I'm saying. For those of you that are wondering, that's going to be coming up this week. I'm going to be doing more videos about peptides. We got all kinds of information coming up about that. For those of you that are wondering about the Green Industry Expo, we've got big plans for the Green Industry Expo. For those of you that are asking about distributors, we have a new distributor in St. Louis. If you are in the St. Louis area and you are looking for, and you are a professional lawn care company looking for any of the CarbonEarth.co products, please reach out to me and I will put you in contact with that distributor before. Until then, until I put out a video about it, the video will come. So thank you for everybody for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Y'all have a fantastic evening.